Welcome to the Learn and Master Piano Workshop in Nashville's Warehouse District. We don't call it a workshop for nothing. This is where we get down to the nuts and bolts of building your musical skills. We're surrounded by trucks, trains, and the occasional plane, and you'll hear them from time to time in the background. But we can make all the noise we want and practice to perfection without driving anyone crazy. So come on in, make yourself comfortable, and let's get to work. Okay, crew, turn on the magic background and roll 'em. Welcome to our first workshop session. In this space, we'll be working on the concepts covered in the sessions, organizing some of your practice time, and sometimes adding new material related to the sessions. This time, we'll start by orienting ourselves at the piano, which brings us back to our first nugget, which is you can use the arrangement of the black notes on the piano in groups of 2 and 3 to orient yourself at the piano's keyboard. Remember, the piano is laid out in a repeating series of 12 pitches, and each series has 5 black and 7 white keys. So let's find all those groups of 2 and 3 black keys, starting at the bottom of the piano, working all the way up and then back down. And we're going to play the groups of 2 with the left hand with fingers 2 and 3, and the groups of 3 with the right hand with fingers 2, 3, and 4. So let's do that together. The lowest group of 2 black keys on the piano with fingers 2 and 3 of the left hand, and then the group of 3 with fingers 2, 3, and 4 of the right hand. Then moving up, we have another group of 2 and 3, 2 and 3. Now we're at the middle of the piano, 2 and 3, continuing up, 2 and 3, 2 and 3, and then we're at the top of the keyboard. Now let's go 3 and 2, 3 and 2, 3 and 2, continuing down to the middle of the piano, 3 and 2, 3 and 2, and back where we started on the bottom with 3 and 2. And these black keys are going to help us find the notes of our musical alphabet. And remember that the piano's notes are named by the letters A to G. So we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We have those same 7 notes of the musical alphabet all the way up and down the piano. So let's try to find each one of those notes of the musical alphabet all the way up and down the piano. And remember that the A is the lowest note on an 88-key keyboard. So we'll start with this A down here, and we'll go to this A. And remember, we're finding the A's by finding the group of 3 black keys and going to the note just below the top note of that group of 3 black keys, the white note just below it, which is A. So continuing up the keyboard with all the A's, we find the 3 black keys and then this A just below the top note of the group of 3. And this A, and then another A up here. And moving up to the top of the keyboard, finding the A's. And then moving down, playing all the A's on the keyboard. And soon you'll be able to find those A's without actually having to play those 3 black keys. But for now, that helps us find that A easier. Now let's find all the C's on the keyboard. And remember, we used the groups of 2 black keys to find C. Let's go to the lowest 2 black keys again. And the note just below the bottom of those 2 black keys is a C. So let's move up the keyboard and find all the C's. Just below that group of 2 black keys. When we get here in the middle of the keyboard, this is what's called middle C. And remember, middle C is going to be an important note in the middle of the piano that will be used as an orientation point. So continuing up with all the C's. And then to the top of the keyboard. Now continuing back down, let's try to find those C's without actually playing those black notes. Middle C again, in the middle of the piano. Another C down here. Now let's find all the F's. And remember, we take the groups of 3 black keys and go to the note just below the bottom of those group of 3. So that's our F. So moving up the keyboard, using those 3 black keys to find our F, just below the bottom one of those 3 black notes. Now continuing back down with all the F's. So now we know how to find A, C, and F. Let's try to find all the B's on the keyboard. So we go to the group of 3 black keys again and find the one that's just above the top note of those group of 3. So that's our B. And continuing up the keyboard, there we have the B just below middle C. And then we're up at the top of the keyboard with B, and then coming back down. So now let's find all the D's on the piano. And we'll use groups of 2 black keys, starting at the bottom of the piano, and find the D that's in the middle of those 2 black keys just beneath them. So we've got this D, and then moving up the keyboard, another D, and then we're to the middle of the keyboard, just above middle C, and we have our D right next to middle C. And then moving up, there's another D, and then D above that one, and then the top D on the piano, and then moving back down, and we're back next door to middle C with a D, and then moving down the piano. That's all the D's. Now let's find all the G's. Just above the bottom note of that group of 3 black keys on the white note, that's a G. And then moving up the piano, there's another G. And then we're at the top of the piano to the top G, and then we're coming back down. Finding all these G's. The final note of the musical alphabet we're going to find is an E. And we take that group of 2 black notes again at the bottom of the piano and go to the note just above the top note of that group of 2. That's our E. So we'll go all the way up the piano with those E's. And there's the E just above middle C. And again, we're using those groups of 2 black keys as a visual reference to find those E's. And we're back to the E above middle C, going back down, and then we're back to the low E that we started on. Now I'm going to show you some stretching exercises that we'll be using throughout these workshops to keep our hands and fingers and wrists loose. The first one I call a bend back stretch. And we're going to take our right arm and put it out. And using the fingers, we're going to gently bend back that wrist till we feel a stretch. Not past the point of stretching, but just feel that stretch. And then we're going to bend the hand down and do the same thing, using the left hand to bend the right hand back so we feel that stretch in the wrist going the other way. Now let's do that with the left hand. Bending the fingers back just till we feel a stretch in the wrist and the hand. And then bending it back the other way, using the right hand to pull the left hand back and feel that stretch in the wrist. Now we're going to do a stretch I call the steeple stretch. We make a steeple with our hands folded this way, and we're going to move each finger to the side this way, and then to the other side. Now the middle finger, and you should feel a little bit of a stretch in the fingers and also in the wrist when you do this. It's also a good idea to stretch the rest of your body before you play. Do some stretching exercises or yoga or whatever to get yourself loose. And remember this nugget about how the body connects to the instrument. Different parts of our body, from the shoulder and upper arm, down through the forearm and wrist, and out of the hand and fingers, are responsible for different actions at the piano. Also remember what we said about where to sit at the piano. We're going to sit so our navel is roughly even with middle C. And if you need an adjustable seat to sit in the right position, then by all means use one. When you extend your hands, you should be able to comfortably have your forearm at about a 90-degree angle to the piano. And your fingers should be slightly curved, almost as if there's a ball underneath them. So let's practice that 5-finger exercise in this position with our thumb on middle C, our first finger of the right hand on middle C. We're going to go slowly up and down these 5 notes. So let's try that together. Slowly up and down. 1, 2, 3, 4. And try to lift the fingers a little bit when you play the notes. Now try to play that just a little bit faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. And lifting the fingers before they hit the notes. Now let's try that 5-finger exercise with the left hand. We're going to put the thumb of the left hand on middle C and play these 5 notes. Before we do that, let's drop our hand into that position on those notes and just make a little semicircle with the wrist and then go back the other way. That helps get the wrist loosed and gets us ready to play the 5-finger exercise. So let's play those slowly up and down from C down to F and then back up to C. This time I'll count us in and we'll play it together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's try that just a little bit faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll be doing different variations of these 5-finger exercises throughout this course. And then we'll also get into scales and other exercises for the fingers. So now let's find the 3 right-hand chords of our first chord progression. The first chord has a G with the first finger, middle C with the third finger, and then E with the fifth finger. That's our chord. The next chord is the same, except for the thumb moves up one step to the white note just above the G, which is an A. So that's the second chord. And then the third chord is the same, except the top note moves down one step to the fourth finger on D. So let's play those three chords slowly in order. The first chord, the second chord, and the third chord. So let's check out the fingering on the three chords in the right hand. On the first chord, we've got fingers 1, 3, and 5. And then on the second chord, we have the same two fingers on top and the same two notes, and the bottom note moves up one step with the first finger. So once again, we've got 1, 3, and 5 on the second chord. On the third chord, the top note moves down one step, and we switch from finger 5 to finger 4. So there's the third chord. Fingers 1, 3, and 4. In the left hand, we're going to use the first finger on the first bass note and the fifth finger on the second two bass notes. Now let's find the left hand notes. The first left hand note is on C, an octave below middle C. And the next two left hand notes are down on the F with the fifth finger. The C was played with the first finger, and we go down to F on the fifth finger. And then repeat it when we play that third chord. So let's check out the whole outline of this progression without the rhythm yet. So we've got this chord for 4 beats, this chord for 2 beats, and this chord for 2 beats. So let's try that together, and I'll count the beats while we play the 3 chords. 1, 2, 3, 4. The first chord, 2, 3, 4. Second chord, 2, and the third chord. Now let's repeat that. First chord, 2, 3, 4. Second chord and third chord. And then we resolve back to the first chord to finish the progression. For the more advanced part of practicing this progression, we're going to play the rhythm, which is 1 chord per beat. So the right hand will be like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. First chord, 1 per beat. And then the second chord twice, and the third chord twice. Let's do that again. First chord 4 times, second chord twice, and third chord twice. And then we resolve it. So now let's add the left hand to that. 1, 2, 3, 4. First chord. Now the second chord in the new bass note. And that bass note again with the third chord. First chord. New bass note and new chord. And the next chord. So let's play our first chord progression together one time. I'll count us in, and we'll play that progression twice and resolve it back to the first chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. So remember our idea about good practice habits. When you're practicing anything, slow it down and break it down. So we made it through our first workshop together, and we're getting our bearings around the landscape of the piano and getting the feel of playing a little. We learned a nice chord progression and got our individual fingers moving on the keyboard, and we're laying the groundwork for progressions, melodies, and tunes to come. Enjoy the process and challenges, and you'll make steady progress. Enjoy the sound and feel of your piano, and look forward to more to come. Ciao.